First contact. The vast emptiness of space had always filled Admiral Elena Vega with a sense of wonder and possibility. But today, as she stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, Earth's most advanced space station, that emptiness felt oppressive, almost threatening. Admiral, her second-in-command, Commander Jack Harper, called out, "We're receiving a transmission. It's not one of ours." Vega's heart raced. Humanity had been searching for signs of extraterrestrial life for centuries. Now it seemed they had found us instead. "Put it on screen," she ordered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that would forever change the course of human history. The alien was humanoid, but there the similarities ended. Its skin was a mottled gray-green, covered in what looked like bony plates. 4 obsidian eyes stared out from a face that seemed more like a predator's snout than anything human. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled to keep up, the alien's words coming through in a harsh, guttural tone. "Humans of Earth," the creature began, its voice dripping with disdain. "I am Supreme Commander Zarkath of the Krozorn Empire. Your pitiful broadcasts have reached our borders, and we find your species lacking." Vega clenched her fists, willing herself to remain calm as the alien continued. "For millennia, the Krozorn have tested emerging races, separating the worthy from the weak. It is time for humanity to face that test." The view screen split, showing images of planets reduced to ash, entire civilizations wiped out. Vega heard gasps and muttered curses from her crew. "You have 1 Earth year to prepare your finest warriors," Zarkath declared. "They will face our elite in combat. Should they prove themselves, you may yet earn a place among the stars. Fail, and your species will be purged, your world cleansed for those more deserving." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Orders, Admiral?" Harper asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Vega took a deep breath, her mind racing. "Contact Earth Command immediately. We need to convene an emergency session of the United Earth Council." As the crew scrambled to action, Vega stared out at the stars. The vastness of space no longer seemed full of possibility. Now, it harbored a threat unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Dr. Amelia Chen, lead cynobiologist at the Global Defense Initiative, pored over the data from the Krozorn transmission. Her lab, usually a place of excitement and discovery, now felt like a war room. "What have you found, Doctor?" General Marcus Stone asked, his weathered face a mask of concern. Amelia pushed her glasses up her nose, gesturing to the holographic display. "The Krozorn physiology is fascinating, General. Their exoskeleton appears to be a natural armor capable of withstanding extreme temperatures and pressures. And their musculature, it's at least 3 times denser than ours." Stone's frown deepened. "So they're stronger, tougher. Any weaknesses?" "Their metabolism is off the charts," Amelia replied. "They burn energy at an incredible rate. In prolonged combat, that could be exploited." The general nodded, his mind already formulating strategies. "Good work, Doctor. Keep digging. We need every advantage we can get." As Stone left, Amelia turned back to her data. The fate of humanity might well rest on the insights she and her team could glean from these alien aggressors. In New Geneva, the United Earth Council convened in an atmosphere of barely contained panic. Representatives from every nation argued fiercely, their voices echoing off the walls of the Grand Assembly Hall. "We should surrender," the delegate from Indonesia shouted. "Better to live under alien rule than to see our world destroyed." "Coward," retorted the Russian representative. "We must fight, no matter the cost." At the center of the storm stood President Lydia Okafor, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around her. She raised her hand, and gradually, the room fell silent. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice firm and resolute, "we face a threat unlike any in our history. The Crozorn offer us a choice between submission and annihilation. I say we offer them a third option." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "We will meet their challenge. We will send our best and brightest to face whatever trials they have prepared. And we will show these Crozorn that humanity is not to be underestimated." A murmur ran through the crowd, a mixture of fear and determination. "But we will do more than that," Okafor continued. "While our champions face their elite, we will prepare. Every nation, every resource, every mind must be bent toward our defense. If the Crozorn choose war, they will find that Earth is no easy conquest." The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. As Okafor stepped down from the podium, she caught the eye of Admiral Vega, who nodded in approval. The next year would determine the fate of their species. It was time for humanity to prove its worth. In a secret facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Sarah Chen stood at attention, her body a coiled spring of tension and anticipation. Around her, 11 other individuals, the best soldiers, scientists, and strategists Earth had to offer, waited in similar states of readiness. General Stone paced before them, his eyes hard as flint. "You 12 represent humanity's best hope," he said, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. "In 3 months, you ship out to face whatever challenges the Crozorn have prepared. The fate of our entire species rests on your shoulders." Sarah felt the weight of that responsibility settle over her like a physical thing. She glanced at her teammates, a diverse group from every corner of the globe. They had trained together for months, pushing themselves beyond all known human limits. "You've been enhanced with our latest biotech," Stone continued. "Strengthened bones, accelerated healing, neural implants to interface with your gear. You're the pinnacle of human achievement." He paused, his gaze boring into each of them in turn. "But remember this, your greatest weapon is your humanity, your adaptability, your creativity, your indomitable spirit. That's what will see you through." As Stone dismissed them, Sarah caught the eye of Dr. Victor Novak, the team's scientific genius. His usually cheerful face was grim, but he managed a small smile. "Ready to make history, Captain?" he asked. Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Ready to save it, Doctor." As they filed out to continue their preparations, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what trials awaited them among the stars. Whatever the Crozorn had planned, she and her team would face it head-on. The future of humanity depended on it. The chosen few. The harsh buzz of the alarm jolted Captain Sarah Chen awake. For a moment, disorientation clouded her mind. The sterile white walls of her quarters a far cry from the lush forests where she'd grown up. Then reality crashed back in. Today was the day. As she donned her sleek, black uniform, Sarah caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at her seemed different, harder, more focused. 9 months of grueling training had honed her body and mind to a razor's edge. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Captain," came the voice of Dr. Victor Novak. "It's time." Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. "On my way, Doc." The corridors of the underground facility were a hive of activity as Sarah made her way to the briefing room. Technicians rushed back and forth, making last-minute preparations for the mission that would determine humanity's fate. As she entered the room, Sarah was greeted by the sight of her team. 11 of the finest individuals Earth had to offer. There was Maria Gonzalez, the team's tactical expert, her dark eyes sharp and alert. Next to her sat Jamal Mbeki, their pilot and navigation specialist, his fingers tapping restlessly on the table. Dr. Novak gave Sarah a nod as she took her seat. The scientist's usually cheerful demeanor was tempered by the gravity of their situation, but his eyes still held a glimmer of excitement at the prospect of encountering alien technology. At the head of the table stood General Marcus Stone, his face a mask of grim determination. As the room fell silent, he began to speak. "In less than 24 hours, you will embark on the most crucial mission in human history," Stone said, his voice resonating with authority. The Crozorn ship will arrive to transport you to their homeworld, where you will face their trials. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the assembled team. We don't know exactly what you'll be facing out there, but we do know this. The Crozorn underestimate us. They see humans as weak, unworthy. It's up to you to prove them wrong. Stone activated a holographic display, showing a schematic of their ship, the Defiant. This vessel represents the pinnacle of human engineering, stealth capabilities, advanced weapons systems, and a revolutionary AI to assist you in your mission. Dr. Novik leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with pride. The AI, which we've named ARIA, is unlike anything we've created before. She's capable of learning and adapting at an unprecedented rate. She'll be your ace in the hole out there. As if on cue, a shimmering blue hologram materialized above the table, taking the form of a young woman. Greetings, Team Defiant, Araya said, her voice melodious, yet tinged with an unmistakably artificial quality. I look forward to working with you all. Sarah studied the AI, impressed by the lifelike quality of its movements and expressions. She had worked with AI before, but Araya seemed leagues beyond anything she'd encountered. Now, Stone continued, let's review the mission parameters one last time. For the next hour, the team went over every detail of their upcoming journey. Their primary objective was clear: succeed in whatever trials the Crozorn set before them, proving humanity's worth. But there was a secondary, covert mission as well. While you're on Crozar, Stone explained, you need to gather as much intelligence as possible. Their technology, their social structure, their weaknesses, anything that could give us an edge if negotiations break down. Sarah nodded grimly. They all knew the stakes. If they failed, Earth would have no chance against the full might of the Crozorn Empire. As the briefing concluded, Sarah stood to address her team. We've trained for this, she said, her voice steady and confident. Each of you was chosen not just for your skills, but for your heart, your determination. Whatever the Crozorn throw at us, we'll face it together. A chorus of affirmations echoed around the room. Despite the enormous pressure, Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its best. United, determined, ready to fight for their very existence. Hours later, Sarah stood on the launch pad, the Defiant looming before her. The ship was a sleek, angular craft, its dark hull seeming to absorb the light around it. It looked more like a predator than a vessel, which, Sarah mused, was entirely appropriate given their mission. As the team made their final preparations, a commotion near the facility's entrance caught Sarah's attention. President Okafor had arrived to see them off, flanked by Admiral Vega, and a coterie of high-ranking officials. Captain Chen, Okafor said, approaching Sarah with an outstretched hand. On behalf of all humanity, I wish you and your team Godspeed. Sarah shook the president's hand, feeling the weight of expectation in the older woman's grip. We won't let you down, Madam President. Okafor nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and worry. Remember, Captain, you carry the hopes and dreams of every human being with you. Show the Crozorn what we're truly capable of. As the political delegation retreated to a safe distance, Sarah turned to her team. All right, people, this is it. Let's show these aliens what humanity is made of. One by one, they boarded the Defiant. Sarah paused at the entrance, taking one last look at the world they were fighting to protect. The blue sky, the green mountains in the distance, it all seemed so fragile now, knowing what lurked beyond the stars. With a deep breath, she stepped inside, the door sealing behind her with a soft hiss. Inside the ship, Sarah made her way to the bridge. The rest of the team was already at their stations, running final checks on their systems. As she settled into the captain's chair, ARI's hologram appeared beside her. All systems are operating at optimal efficiency, Captain, the AI reported. We are ready for departure. Sarah nodded, her hand hovering over the launch controls. Thank you, ARI. Team, sound off. One by one, Each member of the crew confirmed their readiness. As the last voice fell silent, a new transmission crackled over the comms. "Defiant, this is Mission Control. We're detecting an anomaly in high orbit. The Crozorn transport has arrived." Sarah's jaw tightened. This was it. No turning back now. "Understood. Mission Control. We're on our way." With a final glance at her team, Sarah engaged the launch sequence. The Defiant's engines roared to life, pressing them all back into their seats as the ship rocketed towards the stars. As Earth fell away beneath them, growing smaller by the second, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. Whatever trials awaited them on Crozar, whatever horrors the alien world might hold, they would face them together. For their families, for their world, for the very future of humanity. The Defiant streaked towards the looming Crozorn ship, carrying with it the hopes and fears of an entire planet. The journey to prove humanity's worth had begun. Journey to Crozar. The Crozorn transport ship loomed before them, a behemoth of alien design that dwarfed the Defiant. Its hull was a maze of sharp angles and protruding spines, more reminiscent of a monstrous deep-sea creature than a spacefaring vessel. As they approached, Captain Sarah Chen couldn't shake the feeling that they were being swallowed whole. "Fascinating architecture," Dr. Novik muttered, his eyes wide as he studied the alien ship. "The design seems to prioritize intimidation over aerodynamics." "Stay focused, people," Sarah warned, her voice taut with tension. "We don't know what to expect once we're inside." As if in response to her words, a massive portal yawned open in the side of the Crozorn ship. A gravitational beam seized the Defiant, drawing them inexorably into the cavernous docking bay. "Cutting main engines," Jummel reported, his hands dancing over the controls. Switching to maneuvering thrusters, the Defiant glided into the alien hangar, settling onto the deck with a gentle thud. For a moment, silence reigned as the team took in their surroundings. The interior of the Crozorn ship was a riot of biomechanical shapes, pulsing with an eerie greenish light. "RIA, what are you picking up?" Sarah asked, her hand resting on her sidearm. The AI's hologram flickered to life. "Atmospheric composition is within human tolerance, Captain. I'm detecting multiple life forms approaching our position." Sarah nodded grimly. "All right, Heem. Remember your training. We're here to prove ourselves, but stay alert. These aren't our friends." As one, the crew of the Defiant moved towards the airlock. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the door slid open, revealing a delegation of Crozorn warriors. The aliens were even more imposing in person. Towering a full head taller than even the largest human, their bodies were covered in overlapping plates of bony armor. 4 obsidian eyes regarded the humans with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. One Crozorn stepped forward, its mandibles clicking as it spoke. "I am Vorkath, second to Supreme Commander Zarkath. You will follow me to your accommodations." Sarah stepped up, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen. We're ready for whatever challenges you have prepared." Vorkath's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. "We shall see, human. We shall see." The journey through the Crozorn ship was a surreal experience. Corridors twisted and branched in ways that defied human logic, and more than once, Sarah found herself disoriented. She was grateful for Aria's presence. The AI was mapping their route, ensuring they wouldn't get lost in this alien labyrinth. Finally, they arrived at what Vorkath called their accommodations. It was a large, circular chamber with several smaller rooms branching off from it. The walls pulsed with the same bioluminescent light they had seen throughout the ship. "You will remain here until we reach Crozar," Vorkath announced. "Do not attempt to leave this area. It would be unfortunate if you were to get lost in the ship." With that ominous warning, the Crozorn left, a shimmering force field springing to life across the entrance. "Well," Jummel said, breaking the tense silence, "at least the accommodations are better than my first apartment." The attempted humor did little to lighten the mood. Sarah turned to her team, noting the mix of anxiety and determination on their faces. All right, people. We got work to do. Novak, I want you and ARIA analyzing every bit of data we can gather about this ship. Maria, Jamal, start working on escape scenarios. The rest of you, get some rest. I have a feeling we'll need it. As the team dispersed to their tasks, Sarah found herself drawn to one of the viewport-like structures on the far wall. The void of space stretched out before her, punctuated by unfamiliar stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, now impossibly far away. Penny for your thoughts, Captain. Dr. Novik's voice startled her from her reverie. Sarah sighed, not taking her eyes off the alien constellations. Just thinking about home, Doc. About what's at stake. Novak nodded, his usual jovial demeanor subdued. It's a heavy burden we carry. But if anyone can do this, it's us. You really believe that? Sarah asked, finally turning to face him. I have to, Novak replied, a hint of his trademark grin returning. The alternative is too terrifying to contemplate. Days blended into weeks as the Crozorn ship hurtled through space. The team fell into a routine of training, study, and preparation. Dr. Novak and ARIA worked tirelessly, gleaning what information they could from their limited access to Crozorn systems. Their technology is incredible, Novak reported during one of their daily briefings. It's a fusion of organic and mechanical components, far beyond anything we've achieved. But there's something else, something underlying it all that I can't quite grasp. Keep working on it, Sarah encouraged. Any insight could be crucial. As they neared the end of their journey, tension among the crew reached a fever pitch. The Crozorn had provided no information about what trials awaited them, and the uncertainty was taking its toll. It was during one restless night cycle that disaster struck. Sarah was jolted awake by a violent shudder that ran through the entire ship. Alarms blared as she rushed to the central chamber. Status report. She barked as her team scrambled to their stations. We've dropped out of FTL, Jamal reported, his fingers flying over his portable console. Something's wrong with the Crozorn drive system. Before Sarah could respond, the force field at the entrance flickered and died. Vorkath burst in, his normally impassive face contorted with what looked like fear. Humans, he growled, your help is required. Our drive core is unstable. If it is not stabilized, this ship and everyone on it will be destroyed. Sarah exchanged a quick glance with her team. This could be a test, another trial from the Crozorn, or it could be a genuine emergency. Either way, they had no choice. What do you need us to do? She asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Vorkath's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Our engineers are dead or incapacitated. We need your scientific expertise to stabilize the core. Sarah nodded sharply. Novak, you're with me. Araya, interface with their systems if you can. The rest of you, stand ready. This could be our chance to prove what humanity is capable of. As they raced through the twisting corridors towards the heart of the Crozorn ship, Sarah couldn't help but feel a grim sense of irony. They had come to face the Crozorn's trials, but now the aliens' very survival might depend on them. The drive core chamber was a nightmare of twisted metal and pulsing energy. Arcs of strange, purplish lightning crackled between massive crystalline structures. At the center, a swirling vortex of energy threatened to tear the ship apart. My God, Novik breathed, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and scientific fascination. It's beautiful. And deadly, Sarah reminded him. Can you stabilize it? Novak studied the alien controls, his brow furrowed in concentration. Maybe with ARIA's help. But Captain, I don't think this is just a mechanical failure. There's something else at work here. As if to punctuate his words, a keening wail filled the air. The vortex at the center of the chamber pulsed, and for a moment, Sarah thought she saw something within it. Shapes, movement, a glimpse of another reality. Whatever you're going to do, Doc, Do it fast, she urged, her hand instinctively going to her weapon. Novak nodded, his fingers flying over the alien controls as Araya's voice guided him through the unfamiliar systems. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Come on, Sarah muttered, her eyes darting between Novak and the writhing vortex. With a final, desperate command, Novak slammed his hand down on what looked like an activation panel. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the vortex began to shrink, the arcs of energy retreating back into the crystalline structures. As the last of the anomaly faded away, Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. They had done it. They had saved the ship. But as she turned to congratulate Novak, she saw something in his eyes that sent a chill down her spine. Whatever he had seen in those alien systems, whatever insights he had gained, had shaken him to his core. "Doc," she asked, her voice low. "What is it? What did you see?" Novak swallowed hard, his face pale. "Captain, I don't think we're dealing with just the Crozorn anymore. There's something else out there, something bigger. And I think it's noticed us." As alarms continued to blare and Crozorn rushed around them, Sarah felt the weight of Novak's words settle over her. Their mission, already fraught with danger, had just become infinitely more complex. Whatever trials awaited them on Crozar, whatever the Crozorn had planned, it was now clear that there were greater forces at play, forces that might determine not just the fate of humanity, but of the entire galaxy. With a grim nod to Novak, Sarah steeled herself for what was to come. They had passed this unexpected test, but she knew in her heart that it was only the beginning. Infiltration and sabotage. The Crozorn homeworld loomed before them, a massive sphere of swirling purples and greens that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. As the ship descended through the turbulent atmosphere, Captain Sarah Chen couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had plagued her since the incident with the drive core. "It's beautiful," Maria whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the alien landscape, in a terrifying sort of way. Sarah nodded grimly. "Remember, we're not here as tourists. Stay focused on the mission." As they touched down on the surface of Crozar, the team was immediately struck by the oppressive gravity. Even with their enhanced physiology, moving felt like wading through molasses. Vorkath, who had been uncharacteristically quiet since the drive core incident, turned to address them. "You will be escorted to the arena of trials. Prepare yourselves, humans. Many have faced our challenges. Few have survived." Sarah met the alien's gaze steadily. "We're ready." As they were led through the sprawling Crozorn capital, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the scale of everything. Towering spires of biomechanical design reached towards the roiling sky, while hovering vehicles zipped between them in dizzying patterns. Dr. Novak, walking beside her, leaned in close. "Captain," he murmured, his voice barely audible, "I've been analyzing the data from the drive core. There's something you need to know." Before he could continue, they arrived at their destination. The Arena of Trials was a massive structure, its design reminiscent of ancient Roman colosseums, but twisted into alien geometries that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Supreme Commander Zarkath himself was waiting for them, his imposing figure dwarfing even the largest Crozorn warriors. "Welcome, humans," he rumbled, his voice dripping with barely concealed disdain. "Your trials begin now." The next several days were a blur of grueling challenges. Physical contests pushed their enhanced bodies to the limit, while mental trials taxed their intellects and resolve. Through it all, Sarah and her team persevered, their unity and adaptability allowing them to overcome obstacles that had defeated countless other species. But even as they succeeded, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. The Crozorn seemed distracted, as if these trials, which they had claimed were of utmost importance, were suddenly secondary to some greater concern. It was during a rare moment of respite that Dr. Novak finally had a chance to share his discoveries. The drive core wasn't just malfunctioning, he explained, his voice low and urgent. It was reacting to something, some kind of trans-dimensional energy. Sarah frowned. "What are you saying, Doc?" Novik's eyes darted around, ensuring they weren't overheard. "I think the Krozorn are in contact with entities from another reality. Powerful beings that might be the true force behind their empire." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began to blare throughout the complex. Krozorn warriors rushed past them, their usual disciplined demeanor replaced by what looked unsettlingly like panic. "AI," Sarah called out, activating her neural link to the AI. "What's going on?" The AI's voice came through, tinged with static. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the Krozorn capital. It appears to be centered on a structure approximately 3 kilometers from your position." Sarah made a split-second decision. "Team, this might be our only chance. We're going to find out what's really going on here." Using the chaos as cover, the human team slipped away from their guards. Guided by Aria's directions, they made their way through the twisting streets of the alien city. The closer they got to their destination, the stranger things became. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist, colors bleeding into one another in impossible ways. Finally, they arrived at what could only be described as a temple. Its architecture was unlike anything else they had seen on Krozar, all sweeping curves and pulsing light. "My God," Jamal breathed, his eyes wide. "What is this place?" Before anyone could answer, a piercing shriek split the air. The temple's entrance yawned open, revealing a swirling vortex of energy not unlike what they had seen in the drive core. And stepping out of that vortex was a being that defied description. It was massive, its form constantly shifting and changing, as if it couldn't quite decide what shape to take in this reality. Zarkath himself appeared, prostrating before the entity. "Great One," he intoned, "we have done as you asked. The humans are here." The entity's attention turned to Sarah and her team. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. At last it rumbled, the words somehow bypassing their ears and resonating directly in their minds. "The final piece arrives." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Who are you? What do you want with us?" The being's form rippled, and for a moment, Sarah thought she saw a reflection of herself within its shifting mass. "We are the architects," it said, "and you, humans, are the key to our return." As the entity spoke, Sarah felt a tugging sensation in her mind. Memories flashed before her eyes, not just her own, but those of her entire species. The long march of human history, every triumph and tragedy, every leap forward in science and technology. And suddenly, she understood. The Krozorn, the trials, even the threat to Earth, it had all been orchestrated. A grand plan to shape humanity, to push them to evolve in specific ways. "You've been guiding us," she said, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. All of human history, the architect's form, pulsed with what might have been satisfaction. "Clever little ones," it said. "Yes, we have watched and guided. And now, you are ready." Zarkath rose, his earlier disdain replaced by a fanatic gleam in his eyes. "Don't you see, humans? This is a great honor. You will be the vessels for the architect's return to this reality." Sarah's mind raced. Everything they had believed about their mission, about the threat to Earth, had been a lie, or at least not the whole truth. But one thing was clear: allowing these architects to use humanity as vessels would mean the end of everything they had fought to protect. She caught Novik's eye, saw the same realization dawning on his face. Whatever happened next would determine not just the fate of Earth, but potentially that of multiple realities. "Team," she said, her voice low and determined, "get ready. We didn't come this far to become puppets for some interdimensional beings." As the humans tensed for action, the architect's form began to expand, reaching out tendrils of energy towards them. The air crackled with power, and Sarah knew that the true battle for humanity's future was about to begin. With a nod to her team, Sarah Chen, representative of Earth and all of humanity, prepared to face down beings that had shaped the destiny of countless worlds. The final confrontation loomed, with the fate of not just one planet, but entire realities hanging in the balance. The final confrontation. The air crackled with otherworldly energy as Captain Sarah Chen and her team faced down the being that called itself an architect. Behind them, Zarkath and his Krausorn warriors looked on with a mixture of awe and fanatical devotion. "You cannot resist," the architect's voice boomed in their minds. "Your entire existence has led to this moment." Sarah gritted her teeth, fighting against the psychic pressure threatening to overwhelm her. "We've defied expectations before," she growled. "We'll do it again." With a thought, she activated her neural link to AI. "Any weaknesses?" she subvocalized. The A's response was immediate. The entity's energy signature matches the anomalies from the drive core incident. "Recommend using the anti-resonance technology Dr. Novak developed." Sarah nodded slightly. "Team, activate Protocol Omega." As one, the human squad reached for devices hidden within their gear. Dr. Novak had created them based on his analysis of the drive core, hoping they might prove useful. Now, they were humanity's best hope. The devices hummed to life, emitting a frequency that caused the very air to ripple. The architect's form wavered, its tendrils of energy recoiling. "Impossible," it hissed, its mental voice tinged with pain and surprise. Seizing the moment of confusion, Sarah launched into action. "Maria, Jamal, secure our exit. Novak, see if you can amplify that signal." The team moved with practiced precision. Maria and Jamal engaged the stunned Krausorn guards, their enhanced reflexes and combat training giving them the edge even against the physically superior aliens. Novak worked feverishly on his device, his fingers flying over the controls. "I think I can create a feedback loop," he shouted over the chaos. "But it might destabilize this entire dimension." Sarah made a split-second decision. "Do it. We need to seal them out of our reality." As Novak worked, Sarah turned her attention to Zarkath. The supreme commander of the Krausorn had recovered from his initial shock and now advanced on her, his massive form radiating menace. "You would deny us ascension," he roared, swinging a deadly-looking energy weapon. Sarah ducked under the blow, her enhanced muscles propelling her forward. "We're denying you the right to use us as puppets," she shot back, landing a series of quick strikes that would have felled a normal opponent. But Zarkath was far from normal. He shrugged off her attacks and pressed forward, his superior strength threatening to overwhelm her. Just when it seemed Sarah might falter, a voice rang out. "Hey, ugly. Pick on someone your own size." Sergeant Alan Graves, the team's powerhouse, barreled into Zarkath with the force of a freight train. The two titans clashed in a fury of blows, buying Sarah precious seconds. "Captain," Novak called out. "It's ready, but we need to get out of here now." Sarah nodded, tapping her comm. "Team, fall back to the exit point. Move." As they retreated, the architect's form began to coalesce again, its psychic assault redoubling. "You cannot escape," it thundered. "We have shaped your destiny for eons. You belong to us." Sarah felt her steps falter as the weight of human history pressed down on her. Visions of Earth's past and potential futures flashed before her eyes, a dizzying array of possibilities, all controlled by these interdimensional beings. But amidst the chaos of competing realities, one image stood out. A simple blue marble hanging in space, teeming with life and possibility. Earth. Home. With a supreme effort of will, Sarah shook off the architect's influence. "We shape our own destiny," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. She turned to Novak. "Do it now." The scientist activated his device, and the world exploded into light and sound. The very fabric of reality seemed to tear, the temple structure warping and twisting in impossible ways. The architect's scream of rage and pain reverberated through their minds as its form was drawn back towards the dimensional rift. Zarkath and his Kruzorn, caught in the energy maelstrom, were pulled along with it. "Run," Sarah shouted, urging her team forward as the world collapsed around them. They raced through the disintegrating Kruzorn capital, the alien architecture crumbling and reshaping itself in their wake. Araya guided them through the chaos, calculating the safest route back to their ship. As they reached the Defiant, Sarah paused for one last look at the alien world. The temple where they had confronted the architect was now a swirling vortex of energy, growing larger by the second. "Captain, we need to leave now," Araya's voice urged in her ear. "The dimensional instability is spreading." With a nod, Sarah boarded the ship. Jamal was already at the controls, engines primed for takeoff. "Get us out of here," Sarah ordered, strapping herself in. The Defiant rose into the turbulent skies of Kruzar, accelerating hard as the planet began to break apart behind them. Through the view screen, Sarah watched as the world that had been meant to be humanity's testing ground collapsed in on itself, taking the architects and their Kruzorn servants with it. As they broke free of the planet's atmosphere, a blinding flash lit up space. When it faded, where Kruzar had been there was nothing but empty void. A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of the ship's systems. Did we win?" Maria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sarah let out a long breath. "I think we did, but at what cost?" Dr. Novak, his face pale but determined, spoke up. "We've sealed off that dimension, at least temporarily. The architects won't be influencing our reality anytime soon." "And the Kruzorn?" Jamal asked. "Gone," Araya confirmed. "I'm detecting no signs of their fleet or any other structures in this system." Sarah nodded slowly, the weight of what they'd done settling over her. They had saved Earth, possibly the entire galaxy, from an interdimensional threat, but they had also essentially wiped out an entire civilization. "Set a course for home," she said quietly. "It's time we told Earth the truth about what's out here." As the Defiant's FTL drive engaged, carrying them back towards the blue marble they called home, Sarah reflected on their journey. They had set out to prove humanity's worth, to face the trials set before them by what they thought was merely an advanced alien race. Instead, they had uncovered a conspiracy spanning multiple dimensions, fought beings that had shaped the course of human history, and emerged victorious against impossible odds. Whatever challenges awaited them back on Earth, whatever consequences their actions might have wrought, Sarah knew one thing for certain. Humanity had proven itself, not just to the Kruzorn or the architects, but to themselves. They were no longer merely survivors, no longer an isolated species on a small planet in a vast galaxy. They were explorers, warriors, and shapers of their own destiny. As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The architects had asked if humans were ready for war. The answer, it turned out, was so much more. Humans were ready for the universe.